All right. Hello and welcome to PandoSphere TV. We're so grateful to have you today, and I'm super excited for our special guest today, Lisa Ryan. And Lisa is an incredible best-selling author of about 8 books. Is that right, Lisa? Am I getting my
Yes,
facts straight?
yes.
Awesome. And she's also in 2 films, and she can talk a little bit more about that. But she's a very experienced speaker, leader, and just a really awesome coach. And we had the pleasure of doing an interview together just a few weeks ago. And so that's how I kind of got introduced to Lisa. And when I was listening to her do that interview, something in my heart just spoke like, wow, I really feel like this is a great message that she has to share. And I'm just so excited that all these people from around the world are, coming together to create this change and this shift in the world that we want to see. So thank you, Lisa, for being here with us today. We're super excited to have you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about like how your story, how you became involved with law of attraction, kind of what got you into it.
Um, Funny is that it's actually started, 2009. I went to a 4-day seminar with some of my friends, and we were all jacked up, when we were leaving that. And we wanted to be able to keep that feeling, because you know what it's like. You go to a seminar and you're all jacked up, like, oh, this is going to change my life. And we also know that unless you take action, you go right back to where you were before. And we didn't want that to happen. So we actually opened up a Facebook thread, and we decided, well, we'll share with each other the people we met, experiences that we had. And then one of my friends said, well, why don't we write down 3 things that we're grateful for? It's like, okay, we did that every day, held each other accountable. And that practice really changed everything. It changed soon after my doing that practice. I had the opportunity to go to a seminar with Mike Dooley of Tut, Totally Unique Thoughts. I love Tut. And he was in The Secret and everything. And I had this bracelet of his that said, thoughts become, just choose the good ones. So I had been wearing this for months. I went to a seminar and I saw a booth that was set up that said how thoughts become things. Okay, went and checked it out, and that interaction led to my first movie, The Gratitude Experiment. So I think the whole thing is when you really open up to, first of all, looking for the things that you're grateful for, looking for the good that's happening in your life, and just kind of rolling with it. It's been an absolutely amazing journey since 2009. And like you said, 8 books later. And when I started my gratitude practice, then I was working full time. I had a successful sales career, working for other people. A year later, my position was eliminated via group conference call.
Oh,
And I look back on it now, my girlfriends will say, oh, Lisa, that call was a blessing in disguise. And I'll be like, oh, honey, there was no disguise, total blessing.
wow.
So, we just look for, when we get into the habit of looking for the good, that level of energy starts to attract things to us. And it has been just a magnificent practice.
That's awesome. There were so many things I really love from what you just shared. I liked hearing that you took action, that you had this great feeling. And sometimes I feel like we have that, like this great epiphany, or we watch something or see something, we're like, oh, this is it. This is what I need. But you knew that in order to sustain that, you need to take the action. And then accountability. I heard you talk about accountability. That was huge. And then making it a practice. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So what is your mission now? What is your drive and your fuel for life right now?
My mission really is to change the world one thank you at a time. And not only in general life, but taking it really into corporate America, because we need to have that. My position was eliminated via group conference call. There was no thank you for your 7 years of effort. Thank you for being on the marketing teams. Thank you. We're sorry to see you go. We're going to miss you. There was nothing. And I mean, they took good care of me afterwards. Like I said, it's been a total blessing. But by the same token of really connecting with people that work with you and showing, because when the economy took a dump, 2008, 2010,
Mm-hmm.
People got used to doing the work of 3, 4, 5 people because we were in that you're just lucky to have a job type of economy. But now that the economy is turning around, we've gotten away from the simple niceties of letting employees know specifically how they are contributing to the mission of the organization and just saying thank you. It's not so much of, well, why should I thank you for doing your job? Isn't that what a paycheck is? But it's from coming from that sincere place. And we get to that sincere place when we start with us, when we start with that gratitude journal, we start with that practice. Because one of my programs I refer to as my show program, because it's self, health, others, and wealth. So how does a gratitude practice affect ourself, our perspective? And when we can find the good in our lives, it's easier to see the good in others, which then leads to improved health, which looks at our relationship with others as far as in our personal lives and in the workplace. And then the W is wealth. So how does that translate into the corporate environment as well as from a personal abundance and prosperity? But if we don't start here first, we're never going to be able to get further than that. And that's really the message of showing people first what happens here and starting with gratitude as a principle with a capital P, because it really is the heart of everything else that we do that can lead to incredible good, not only in our personal lives, but in our businesses and in every other area of our lives.
Yeah, beautiful. So what are some of those practices that you encourage? That I know you mentioned the gratitude journal. What are some of the daily rituals, I can't talk. Practices, there it is. Rituals, practices that you do on a daily basis to give you that feeling of gratitude and that you recommend others doing as well.
Sure. I actually have my 5 thank yous a day gratitude challenge that I tell people to do it for 30 days. And that can be, there's 5 ways that you can express appreciation. You can write it in a gratitude journal. So if you write down 5 things, you're good for the day. You can express your appreciation verbally to someone. And so many times we assume that the people in our lives know how we feel about them that we don't take the time to say, thank you for making a difference in my life. We can write a thank you note or a letter of appreciation, or both. And in the world according to Lisa Ryan, here's the difference. Thank you note is thank you for something specific. Thank you for the dinner. Thank you for the gift. Thank you for your time. A letter of appreciation is taking the time to say, this is the way you've made a difference in my life and how I appreciate you for making that difference. So that's 3 and 4. And then the 5th way is to meditate on the power of gratitude for 5 minutes. Some people, they'll start a gratitude journal and kind of get out of the habit. And what the 5 thank yous does is it gives you that flexibility to get to those gratitudes however you want. But when it comes to the gratitude journal, there's actually 2 practices that I do that I would recommend. The gratitude journal in the morning, we start the day and we look at what are 5 things that I'm grateful for. But the cool thing is you can be grateful in advance. I'm so grateful that I'm having that awesome meeting with my boss today. We set that positive expectation. And we can do what I call a wins journal at night, WINS, where we look back at the day and look at the good things that happen. Now, after a particularly horrific day, sometimes the wins journal is the more difficult of the 2, but what it does is it reminds us that 5 good things did happen to us. And it might just be as simple as the sun was out. It might be as simple as, "Ooh, I can breathe today. I can fog a mirror. It's going to be a good day." But we just look for ways to capture that. And people will ask me, "Well, Lisa, do I have to write it down?" And that's really where the magic happens, because you're holding the pen in your hand and you're seeing the words on paper and you're hearing the words. So it's much easier for us to get to gratitude. But much more than that, it also gives us a history that we can look back at when we're not having such a good day, that we can go back and be reminded of the things that we're grateful for.
Yeah, that is beautiful. And I hadn't heard it quite put that way. So I really appreciate you sharing you can tell you've really delved deep into this area of gratitude. So, can you share maybe a personal story or an example of someone else that you'd be willing to share of how they applied these practices and noticed a difference in their life, how they attracted the life that they wanted through gratitude?
I think it goes to, well, I have so many stories, but the one that pops into my head is with my husband. And I've always had a really good marriage. I mean, Scott's my best friend and I adore him. And when I started keeping my gratitude journal in 2009, I never told Scott. I mean, it's not like it was a big secret or anything, but he's an accountant. I'm the, I'm the professional development, junkie here.
Yeah.
And so I just did it. I had no expectation of it. And I noticed the change in Scott, that he started becoming more verbally appreciative to me. And I started, and just that little change. But then a couple of years ago, I decided to start sneaking notes into his lunch. Okay, just little post-it notes. I think the first one was probably to the world's most fabulous husband from the world's most amazing wife, something along those lines.
Uh-huh.
And he took it to the office. He posted it on his cubicle wall.
Oh.
He took a picture of it and he texted it to me.
Oh,
and
goodness.
since then, he's probably got hundreds of notes. But then a couple of months ago, my speaking schedule had gotten to the point that I was so busy and on the road so much that I kind of got away from it for a while. And I happened to be home for a couple of days and I saw Scott's lunchbox sitting there. So I wrote him a little note and I put it in there, and that day at lunch called me, he was all excited. He's like, I really missed your notes. I love having those. Because even though, and we just celebrated 20 years,
Awesome.
and it feels like we're newlyweds because we're always looking for the good in each other and thanking each other in these little tiny ways that make a difference. Again, too many times we assume that the people in our lives know how we feel about them, and giving them that tangible evidence with that little note, that's a note that then they can go back to when they're having a bad day and they remember the day that they got that, and it brings back those feelings to them. So I think that I've seen the greatest effect with my husband. Now, keep in mind, in 2009, I had a very successful career and my position was eliminated. And I thought my husband would be like, oh, girlfriend, you are going back to work. And instead, because he saw, he appreciated me and the work that I was doing, and knowing how hard it is to be an entrepreneur and be in business in your own, he has always been supported. And I think that's because of that mutual respect, but that mutual appreciation and gratitude for each other that has really helped in building, 6 years later, or really 7 years later, a successful business.
So what I really love about that is that it shows that what you put out comes back to you. When you're giving out that love and appreciation, it really does come back to you. Like, your husband didn't even know that you were doing it at first, but you said you started to see a change in him. And we all know how good it feels when someone says thank you to us. So what a beautiful gift to be able to give that to others,
Right.
and to share that with that light with them. So I think that is beautiful. Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely.
And there's too many times that, something happens. None of us are guaranteed a tomorrow.
Right.
So I know at the end of every conversation that I have with Scott, the last words that I say are, I love you. Because I don't know, that if that last conversation will be my last conversation, and I don't want to have any regrets. Do the same thing with my mom and my dad and my family, always ending on those words and letting them know how much they mean to me. Because in my programs, when I talk about that, I can't tell you the number of stories of people that say, I never told my wife, or I never told my mom, or I never told my dad before they passed. And there's that regret that we can't get back. And so that's what I encourage people. Who needs to hear from you today? Pick up the phone, write that letter, make that connection happen. Heck, send a text, doesn't matter.
Right.
But just connect with that person in that meaningful way of gratitude.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think our brains are so programmed to look at the negative that we really have to consciously change that. through those different exercises and train your brain to start to notice the things that are good, because there is something good. There's always something to be grateful for.
Right.
Would you agree with that? And how have you seen that?
Oh,
Yeah.
well, yeah, and that's the thing. And when I talk about the gratitude journal, so many times, I tell people, if you're going through a difficult time right now, I mean, for some people, it's really difficult to find even one thing to be grateful for because of, the trouble that they're going through or what they're dealing with. And so you start where you're at. It may be that the sun's shining. It may be that I flicked on a light switch and electricity actually happened.
Right.
It doesn't have to be that I won the lottery or I got a new job or whatever that goes. We just look for the little things, because when we start where we are, then it's easier. We get into practice. We build that gratitude muscle so it becomes more strong. And what it does is, I started my gratitude practice, and then a year later, almost to the day, is when my medical sales position was eliminated. And I know that if I didn't have that practice where I could immediately look for the good, I could still be wallowing. Because, it's horrible to get fired by conference call, for goodness sake. But when you say, ooh, this is giving me the opportunity to do something that I've wanted to do my entire life, it changes your perspective. But remember that there was a year of practice that went along with that. So even when, through the good times, through the bad times, whatever it takes, of just looking for the good. And sometimes maybe you don't get to 5, but you get to 3. Maybe at the beginning you can't even get to 3, you can get to 1. But if you can get to 1 for a couple days in a row, then the next day maybe you can get to 2. Maybe you can get to 3. But we get into practice of that.
Yeah, that is excellent. So what advice would you give to someone just getting started, as far as being really consistent with doing this?
You know what? Get a notebook, a gratitude journal, something, put it on your nightstand. When you wake up in the morning, first thing in the morning, before your feet hit the ground, take that book and write down 5 things, starting with I'm grateful for. And add some detail to it. Don't just write, I'm grateful for my husband, I'm grateful for my cats, I'm grateful for my house. It gets really boring really quickly. Yeah. I'm so grateful that Scott cooked a great dinner last night. I'm so grateful for sitting on the couch watching Big Bang Theory with 3 kitties sitting on my lap. So something that you can get into it. It's not that you have to have something different every day, but we can add differences when we add details, and then that connects us more with it. People get out of the practice of their gratitude journal when they are just writing down house, cat, spouse, whatever. But when they take that time, and it still takes less than 2 minutes, because I was at one of my programs and I was talking about the gratitude journal, and this lady kind of got in my face. She's like, where am I supposed to get the time to do that? I'm like, you give up 2 minutes of sleep?
2 minutes, right?
It's not, I'm not asking you to do like the artist's way where you're writing down 10 pages of continuous thought or you're spending an hour and a half. It's literally 2 minutes that starts your day or ends your day in a very positive way. And that beyond everything is number 1. But number 2, and equally important, is to think about that person that needs to hear from you and connect with them, either through a note, through a text or a phone call or something, to just say, I was thinking about you and I want to let you know how much you mean to me and how much I appreciate the fact that you're in my life, and do that.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. And just as a challenge to kind of wrap this up for everyone watching, we would just challenge you to start your own gratitude practice based on some of Lisa's suggestions. And if you want to learn more about her books, her speaking, her films, you can go to grategy.com. That's GRATEGY.com. And you can find all of Lisa's information there. And we're so grateful to have you. Here's my expression of gratitude. Thank you. We love you. Thank you very much for sharing this incredible message with us today. Thank you very much, Lisa. We appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
All right. Thank you.